Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to our Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge. Now this is not where we dive into a movie 1 minute at a time. This is where we dive into the highlights of a guest by one big event after the other, or maybe those small events, or whatever it is that gets them to wherever they are in their lives and where they're headed. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of fun for us to be able to take these folks from, where we know them from either work or our past experiences, or maybe guests that have been on the show with us in our previous seasons, and focus on them rather than on a movie. As you heard, I'm Alan Sanders, your host, and joining me once again, my co-host, Walt Murray. Walt, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. How's it going?
Doing great. I am really excited. We're going to have another fantastic voice talent joining us in a little bit. Scotty Baker, otherwise known as Scotty B from WSB, is going to be on with us. I think he does everything at WSB. He can do voice, he can run board, he can call screen. You can hear him on various shows or sometimes piping in, and he's also got stuff on the side, like I think he does a podcast or two. He's available for others. In fact, you know what? I probably don't even know as much as what he can do, and we're going to have him on in a few minutes to talk about his radio and broadcast career.
Well, I'm fairly certain I talked to him the night I tried to call in and tell you how dumb you were about something you were talking about, and he screened me out. He was like, no, Alan won't talk to anybody who doesn't agree with him.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think it had anything to do with agree or disagree. He could just tell by your voice, right. Like, nope, you're not going to be good.
This guy is a moron.
You do not belong on air.
I think I make that obvious every week.
And we'll get him to tell us some of his favorites call screener tricks. But my favorite one is, well, hold on, let me see if he'll take your call. And then you go on hold for the rest of the show. Well, I get a little note that says, do not pick up line 7.
Well, one of the things I've always wondered, when you call it and you're like, well, and they say, well, what do you want to talk about? And you kind of give them the rundown. And then you can kind of hear that dead silence for a second. And you're wondering, are they going, hey, you push this guy to the front? Or are they like, yeah, no, you're not getting on. Like, how do they determine all that?
These are great questions to have for our guests, because honestly, I sometimes think they may have the job that I know I wouldn't want, to deal with the masses who feel like they've got the only opinion worth airing on the radio. They've got the answer. They need to get on the air. And the call screener's job is to say, well, we've had 12 of those already, so we have to move on to something else.
Well, my brother had a similar job to that in college. He actually had two similar jobs to that. He worked the overnight shift at the FBI office, answering the phones there, and then either transferring calls to agents or whoever, or if an agent needed to go out and deal with something, he would call and wake them up and send them out. And he got all kinds of calls like, George Bush has implanted a listening device in my head. UFO aliens are at my house and y'all need to come get them. I mean, just one thing after another. And of course, when you're on the desk at 2 a.m. and you're getting those kind of calls and there's nothing else to do, he's got some stories of playing with some people that were great. And then he worked at a 911 center, and he said, you would not believe the stuff.
When he was with the FBI late at night, did he ever do something like, hey, and welcome to the FBI. Remember, we're the investigators, not the spies.
I can imagine that my brother pulled a lot of stuff.
Welcome to the FBI. Remember, we've already screened your call and we know where you are.
Right.
Wait,
right.
What do you mean you already screened? I didn't talk to anybody. Yes, you have. You just didn't know it.
Well, it's the listening device that George W. Bush put in their head.
Yeah, that along with the weather controlling device.
Yes. Yes.
We've got some of the coolest tools that we never actually use for anything else.
Right, just to mess with people.
We've got mind-altering tools. We've got, what is it, like sound waves that can scramble people's insides so they have diarrhea on the battlefield.
Oh yeah, the light flashes that blind the entire enemy.
Oh yeah, the what do they have it, like the strobe light that's supposed to put everybody into like some kind of a I don't want to call it a trance, but like having
like a seizure.
Seizure. Yeah, you start having like a brain seizure, like, and you fall on the ground, starts flopping around.
Well, is that the same technology that they use on that Japanese anime, where supposedly every once in a while somebody will have a seizure from that?
You know, have you started? I don't know, but I have started seeing all these like pre-show warnings on things like Netflix movies and Amazon movies that if there's a strobe effect anywhere, they now tell you.
Right.
Like they're like, warning. This episode may contain sex, violence, drug use, and strobe effects. I'm like, strobe effects is like apparently for people who have who can go into some kind of a seizure. They want to know that so that way they don't get taken off guard.
Well, I saw one the other day. It was like may contain violence towards children, foul language, and older adult intimidation. I'm like, older adult intimidation? Why am I being warned that an older adult may get intimidated on a stupid TV show?
I don't know. They're getting worse and worse about all these disclaimers.
Well, and they're getting longer and longer. It's going to get like the Star Wars scroll.
Yeah, exactly. Before we start.
Yeah, here are all the potential things that you could get messed up by.
I'm kind of getting tired of it. At some point, they're just going to say, warning, everything you're about to see could cause you a problem. Okay.
Well, and that is kind of true. I mean, that's what we sign up for when we hit this globe. So
danger. At some point, you'll watch people eat. For those of you who are against eating, be advised.
Oh, well, I'm sure for vegetarians, it'll start being, warning consumption of fish and meat products.
How about, you know what? I've actually pulled up a couple of interesting, like weird things that they've added for just a particular movie based on when it was released. Do you remember the remake of The Magnificent Seven?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So in this one, it said, The Magnificent Seven, PG-13, for extended and intense sequences of Western violence and for historical smoking.
Historical smoking?
Yes, well, because, we're not supposed to smoke now, but back then that was okay. So just understand, we're not telling you to smoke today, but we're going to portray a movie in which at that time it was okay to smoke.
That may absolutely be the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And they also put it in the movie Monuments Men, PG-13, for some images of war violence and for historical smoking.
Historical smoking.
Mm-hmm. How about this one? Do you remember this really seductive movie, The Indian in the Cupboard? The kids movie?
Yeah.
Okay, that came out as PG for mild language and brief video images of violence and sexy dancing.
Ooh.
Sexy dancing is apparently a disclaimer at the beginning of a show.
Are they trying to entice people to watch it or trying to warn people about something coming?
These are just like what the producers feel like they need to put at the beginning of the movie or beginning of the TV show to make sure that you can't come back after them and say, how come you didn't warn me?
At what point are they just going to go, folks, some of y'all just don't need to watch TV.
Okay, how about this one for a global warning? Ready? This was put on The Fugitive. Ready? This movie is rated PG-13 for a murder and other action sequences in an adventure setting. Wouldn't that be the description for every action movie ever?
I was going to say, isn't that the description of the movie?
Yes. How about this one? Matilda. Did you ever see that one? The Roald Dahl story about the girl with little powers that she has telekinesis?
Yes.
It was rated PG for elements of exaggerated meanness and ridicule and for some mild language.
That was me in high school.
Yeah. I don't think mine wasn't mild language though. Mine was exaggerated Mine was exaggerated meanness and overabundance of ridicule and rough language.
Well, I have been known a couple times in my life to have some historical smoking going on.
Now, the Shakespeare comedy, actually I had a chance to direct and act in it myself, the live stage show, but Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. It's Shakespeare, right? It's classic. We have our high schoolers and college people read this, right? Well, it was rated PG-13 for momentary sensuality.
What does that mean?
I don't even know.
For a moment, we saw her shoulder.
Yeah. They started to look at each other tenderly with longing in their eyes, but then they were interrupted. But still, for a moment, it could have led to something worse. How about this? Remember Little Giants?
Yes. Yeah.
It got a PG rating for kids' rude language and for pranks.
Oh my gosh. Pranks.
Yes.
Like, you got to be the most boring parent in the world if you look at that and go, no. You're not watching a movie with pranks in it.
All right. You're going to love this one. All right. I'm only going to do a couple more. Do you remember the horrible, horrible movie that had such a potential, but they screwed it up? Alien versus Predator?
Oh, yeah.
So it was officially given an R rating. And here's the whole list: for violence, language, horror images, slime, and gore.
Slime?
Did you know slime might actually cause people to be offended?
It was going to be PG-13, but the slime
is what did
over
it.
The edge.
Pushed it. It did. That was all it took.
Oh my gosh.
How about this one? You know, the remake of one of my beloved movies. We love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is the renamed title. The book was actually Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So the remake with Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, was rated PG.
Which I still refuse to admit exists.
Yeah, no, it's a horrible movie. For quirky situations.
What?
Yes. Quirky situations. Did you know Twister got a PG-13 for intense depiction of very bad weather?
Oh my gosh. Well, so that's the whole Weather Channel. The Weather Channel gets a PG-13.
Yeah, technically, wouldn't it? Wouldn't any weather broadcast, anytime we break in for weather?
Yes, your show immediately goes to PG-13.
We're going to have Scotty B on in a second, and whenever they put that little sounder in the background, that's their, like, if you hear this, that means somewhere in the listening audience is some bad weather. Do we need to put a disclaimer now? You might be in for some intense bad weather.
Warning, you're now PG-13. Please turn this off if kids are around.
All right, my last one before we start to wind this segment down. I think this is hysterical. You remember Team America? You've seen that, right?
Yes, I have seen that.
Are there any real people at all in Team America?
Not a one.
Okay, so, it got an R rating for graphic, crude, and sexual humor, violent images, and strong language, all involving puppets. They had to include all involving puppets.
Yes, thank you for that.
Oh,
we had no idea.
I was thrown by the advertising. They all looked so real on the poster.
Yeah, again, and can you imagine the guy reading that and going, well, okay, well, all this is fine. Wait a minute. Puppets? No, sir.
Hold it right there, Mr. Projectionist. We have a problem in this theater.
You kids get away from that TV. We're not going to have puppet-related violence in our house.
Look, sexual, crude humor, violence, that's cool. But the minute it's involving puppets, that's it. You've crossed the line.
I'll never look at Kermit the same way again. And there's somebody in Hollywood who has this job.
Right. There is somebody involved with every production that's deciding, okay, before we air this, how do we warn the audience appropriately about what they're about to see?
Or titillate them, one or the other.
Hey, careful. This movie, PG-13, for the use of the word titillate. All right. I was going to say, what did you do this week? But this was a lot more fun than I expected.
This was a lot more fun. We're pretty boring. This was great.
So before we bring our guest on, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up in this first segment from what happened this week? Anything going on?
No, I think I mentioned last week that I was dumb enough to agree to get a new dog, right?
Oh, yeah, but you have a great new Facebook profile picture with you and the dog in the car.
Well, that's the old dog going to pick up the new dog.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's Rascal, who is well named. Yeah, but Moose, we have figured out, is not 8 years old. He's probably like 1, and he is a total spaz. So the next few weeks, I'll give you Moose updates. He is, he still hasn't gotten used to the idea that there's a cat in the house. But last night, I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, are we having a tornado? And it was Moose snoring. So I'm regretting this decision already.
Oh, I'm not. You know what, though? Once he gets past
thanks.
3, then that puppy stage is usually gone.
I know. We've got his checkup coming up next week, so I can't wait to hear what the vet says, how old he thinks he is. I'm like, I kind of bought into this for about 4 years. I may be in for a lot longer ride than I thought.
You know what? It'll be a wilder ride for you at home.
Yes, it will. And if he grows any, then it actually literally will be a ride because I'm going to saddle him and start riding him to work because he's a monster.
Well, we've got Riley. He's our Hodor in my house. So you can have your moose. I've got Hodor. We're good to go. So, all right. Well, let's do this. We've chatted long enough. It's time to bring the focus to our show, to the guests that we have invited on today. So it is with great pleasure that we part the curtains and ask the audience to cheer as we welcome to our stage Scotty B. Scotty Baker. Scotty, how you doing, buddy?
Gentlemen, how are we doing? How's everything going?
Doing
Awesome.
Great, man. And so great to have you join us on our Wilder ride inside our listeners' lounge where we like to kick back, relax, and just have a good time. Let's first start at the very beginning, because you are our guest and we want the audience to kind of learn a little bit more about you. How did you find your way into a sort of radio entertainment broadcast career? When did it all start?
Well, for me, it's always been a dream. It's always been what I wanted to do. It's always been the goal. It's just been a long time getting there. I started off in college, actually, Clark Atlanta University, broadcasting on WCLK and 91.9, the Atlanta Smooth Jazz. And I worked from there for years, doing a lot of commercials. So if you hear that promo and it says Atlanta Smooth Jazz, yeah, that's me. That's Scotty B back in college. Back in the young days when I first moved to Atlanta, and it's just kind of grown and progressed. I started out initially as a singer. That was my number one talent. I was in a singing group in high school, and from there it just went forward. I've always had a desire to be in front of people to entertain and inform. So this has been a perfect fit for me. It has been a wild ride, as you guys would say, but it's going to get even wilder, and I'm looking forward to it, man. It's the dream for me, to be honest.
Well, Scotty, where are you from originally?
I am from Lansing, Michigan, all the way up north.
Huh?
And I came out here. What'd you say?
I was gonna say I'm from Detroit, so yeah, we share the same state.
Oh wow, you learn something new every day. I knew I felt a good vibe about this coming into it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I spent 9 years in Ohio, so
Okay.
I'm used to the
You had to
18
do that.
feet of snow and
You had to
and the
bring up
Buckeyes
Ohio.
beating Michigan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you had to bring that up. We were doing so well. This show was going so good. Now, guys, sorry, I got to go. I can't do it with any Ohio State fans.
See, there's the problem with somebody who knows how to be a call screener. They also know how to hang up on people.
Oh, very
That's right.
quickly.
Including us.
On your own show, right?
Right.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last.
Well, hopefully not. You guys got a great product. I've been able to listen in, and I enjoy it. So I'm very excited to be here, and I'm looking ready to ride with you guys for the next hour and some change, however long you have me.
Awesome. Well, Walt asked where you were raised, and I had no idea you were from Lansing. I just met you here in Atlanta. So what was the journey that got you south of the Mason-Dixon line?
Well, for me, I knew I was coming to the South. It was just, honestly, between Atlanta and Alabama. Football. I had football scholarships. I came down here and played football at Clark Atlanta University, defensive tackle, and that was the goal initially. But I had a couple different offers in the South, but I knew I wanted to be here because I had other interests. I've always had interest in entertainment and radio, and I knew Atlanta, I could get it all in one. I could go to the school I wanted to, I could still play ball, and I could still climb this entertainment ladder that we all so share.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Before we then move into the broadcast piece, I actually just learned this now because I didn't have your biography. I didn't know you had a football background, so I'm assuming you played all through high school to get the notice of a college before you went on to college.
Absolutely, yeah. Defensive tackle. Well, in high school, I played offensive line and defensive line. I played both ways, and a little backup fullback on the goal line when things got tough because you're just not stopping me coming downhill. And you're just not. I'm sorry. Doesn't matter how far I got to go, good luck. I got legs like tree trunks. So, yeah, that was the goal and the dream. I kind of fashioned my game after Warren Sapp. That's who I thought I was. Kind of short, undersized for my position, but very stocky, very strong, and fast off the ball.
Well, that's a good person to model your performance after. I mean, that guy was a beast.
Oh, my goodness. I can still watch highlights and get the chills. That's who I wanted to be. I wasn't quite Warren Sapp, but in my mind, I broke all the records.
So what drew you to Clark Atlanta other than Atlanta and the entertainment industry, did you feel like there was an opportunity to play ball here more than you might at a bigger school or at a school from another state? What was it that really sealed the deal here for you?
Well, the dream was University of Michigan. I'm a huge University of Michigan Go Blue fan, and I went to football camp there when Lloyd Carr was coaching. And he told me just what I told you guys. I love your size, I love your momentum, I love your strength, but you're so goddamn short. And I'm saying it nicely, but he's very verbatim. I was too short to play in the Big Ten, long story short. So I had offers out here in the South, and Clark Atlanta had the best offer for me. I had some other schools offering more money, but Clark Atlanta overall was what I needed for the big picture.
Well, and for those not from Atlanta, can you tell us a little bit about Clark Atlanta University? Of course, we're familiar with it being here, but it is one of the, it is a fantastic school. You want to give a little plug for the school real quick?
Absolutely. Clark Atlanta University, a part of the Atlanta University Center, which is Morehouse, Clark, and Spelman, and used to be Morris Brown. No more, they're trying to come back. And Clark Atlanta is just actually the number one HBCU in the Southeast as far as media. They have a wonderful and a world-renowned media program with radio, TV, and film. So the drawing of that program, and I could play football, it was a win-win for me. I don't understand how I could have went to a better school for my situation.
That's fantastic, especially when it comes to different kinds of media, not just necessarily journalism or broadcast news. It sounds like it hits the wide swath of performance.
Absolutely. We do a little bit of everything at Clark Atlanta. And, on a large scale, we're a small private institution, but we make a lot of noise in the media industry. There's people from ESPN to Entertainment Tonight, writers, beat writers for the AJC. A lot of people come out of Clark Atlanta University. It's a lot of good stock, a lot of great connections. And that's what I was big on because, as you know, in Atlanta, sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
That is the truth.
Well, and the thing for you, though, to be able to go to college on a scholarship, whether it was full or partial, that's just awesome. That just allows you to pursue one of your loves while you're learning others.
Absolutely. It was perfect. Like I said, I don't see how any other institution could have offered me more for what I'm looking for and what catered to, potentially what I wanted to be as a professional, a radio personality.
So as you went into college, you didn't have any aspirations of playing in the NFL or anything, I guess, just kind of for those same reasons that you decided to go to a smaller school. Is that right?
Well, I think the more I played and the more I understood, I was realistic with myself. And I didn't have all of the things I needed. I wasn't as great of a player as I needed to be coming from a small school to even get the recognition. So I think the more I played, probably my second year, I realized, okay, this is fun for now, but what's my long-term plan? And I kind of ruled out the NFL because I just didn't have it. When you measure up to all the guys, because when you're in college, you know what kind of specifications they look for, how fast, how strong, how many tackles you need to be making. And I just wasn't lining up, not even for a combine. So, I just made some real adult decisions and was like, okay, this is not going to be my long-term future. What's next? What's my next move? And that microphone was hanging in my face and I had to have it.
Well, and that I think is such an important thing because I meet kids who are good athletes or parents who have good athletes. And man, they are locked in. Like my kid's going to the NBA, my kid's going to go play Major League Baseball, but it doesn't always work out that way for folks.
Absolutely not. If you look at the numbers are mostly not in your favor. You have to be very special. And those guys who are typically know it or the people around them know it.
It's so funny. This whole topic, I get invited pretty much every year to go talk at career days because I've got a career in radio, but I also have my own video production company. So I can kind of hit a kind of a wide swath. And I always talk to these kids and I said, you have to recognize something about your skill sets. Everybody wishes they could go to the NBA or the NFL or the MLB or NHL or whatever it is, but it's like a pyramid.
Yep.
You've got at the very base of the pyramid, everybody's allowed to play. But as you keep going up, it gets narrower and narrower, which means fewer and fewer people can make it. And at that point, you're talking a very tiny percentage will ever have a career in that area. Now, that doesn't mean you don't shoot for it. You don't work hard. You don't, play to the coaches beyond the intensity the coach wants. You are always hustling, but you better have a backup plan in education, something else that you can fall back on, because the vast majority of you won't be able to go all the way.
Absolutely.
And it's like you see these kids and they just look at you like, you just killed my dream. I'm like, no, I'm not killing your dream. I'm trying to give you a sense of reality because I want everyone to succeed. But you know what? You can't have 25,000 people in the NFL.
No.
It just isn't going to work.
We don't got that kind of time.
No, no. So, and I love hearing that you had the wherewithal and probably the upbringing and people around you that gave you the appreciation to say, okay, while I'm here, I do need to figure out what else I have in my toolbox. I don't have to be just a one-trick pony.
Absolutely. And it's unrealistic. I mean, for really any industry, you have to have a backup plan and you have to have a realistic plan. Now, again, if my numbers were lined up like that would be different. They were not. I would have had to make 20 tackles and 10 sacks a game to get the type of recognition needed in such a competitive market, especially being in the South. There's so much talent. This is a hotbed for recruitment.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side, you're going to have great stories for the rest of your life. You're going to be able to tell your friends, your grandkids, your kids, everybody, because not everybody gets to play college football. A lot of people, when that senior year in high school hits, they're done.
That's the end. Absolutely. And I got some great stories to tell, let me tell you.
And probably some good stories not to tell.
Absolutely. Those as well. It goes both ways.
Well, before we move on to then the microphone, dangling there that you wanted to, make your next career move, let's talk for a second just about NCAA ball and just, playing college ball. What were some of your, or if you had to pick, like, what was the highlight of your football career? Was there a particular bowl game? Was there a particular, just a rivalry game, something where you just had stats that were off the chain? What's the one that you would say is kind of like your top story?
It's got to be playing the rival teams. For us at Clark Atlanta, it was either Morehouse or Morris Brown College, which were right again in the Atlanta University Center. So when we played Morehouse, that's when Denzel Washington's son was playing running back. And definitely took pride in tackling him and, being able to tell people that back home. Because Denzel was at the game. He was in the stands. He was, had his old cheering section, really. And the game was, at the time, televised on BET. So it was my first televised football game. So it was just a lot of different emotions. I think that was great because when I got to tackle, it was like the Super Bowl. It was like the game was over. Everybody was so excited. We ended up losing by, I think, 10 or 12 points. But for me, that moment and making that play in front of that crowd, it meant something to me, and the crowd responded. So I felt like I was back in high school again. So
did you have any kind of sense of, after you've made that tackle of, I may have just killed Denzel Washington's son?
Absolutely. I was hoping so. See, let me tell you something about when I played ball. I like to tell people I came out of that last era of the tough guys, where, you were looking to hurt somebody when you got praised for being super aggressive. That, I feel like my generation was the last of that. So in the back of my head, it's like, oh, no, I'm going to light this guy up. He's going to remember me. If he doesn't remember anything else, he'll remember this number. And, he may not, but I remember it.
Well, and it was the same way when I was playing hockey, man. I wanted people to have that number 4 just embedded on their chest.
Yeah, there it is.
And you don't have that as much anymore.
No.
So, Scotty, as you're looking at the NCAA season this year, what do you think's going to happen? I mean, how are they going to kind of pull this out of the meat grinder with all the COVID stuff going on?
I am very interested to watch because, honestly, I do not know. You have some people, some teams from some conferences that are resuming play, and you got others that are completely against it. I don't know how you're going to be able to rank teams and figure out who is who depending on their schedule because there's so many schools not participating. So does it water down the rankings? Does it even make them real? Are you just picking out of the bunch? Like, I don't know how they're going to differentiate. The NCAA has a job that I would not want right now, but I'm definitely watching.
Yeah, I just saw today that one of the conferences is going to start play no later than the middle of November. And then the Big Ten is talking about starting in January. So you have,
but not football then at that point.
No, it's football. So
really,
that's
what are they
spring
do, like 2
ball
games
at that point?
Yeah, and so you've got the SEC will have their season potentially wrapped up based on their scheduling before the Big Ten even starts.
That's insane. Insane.
I'm with you. I don't know if at the end of the season they look back and go, "Hey, Alabama was 11-1 against all SEC people." Michigan was 11-1 against everybody else. So
right.
Alabama gets it. I don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well, here's something crazy that I'll throw in there. you've got the SEC said, look, we want to keep our kids safe, so we're only going to play conference games. Like, well, wait a minute. You've got Georgia Tech, one of your rivals, that's 40 miles away, but you're not going to play them because they're in the ACC?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then you got Arkansas, which is, I don't know, 500 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
You have to put the whole team on a plane and stay at a hotel. And yeah, it really is. It's insane.
You know, you almost think that they would have played regional schedules if that was the case.
Absolutely.
But it's really weird. So it's almost like every conference is trying to make it up. Here's the thing. I don't know that anybody wants to be responsible for an overall plan. So they're just saying, hey, guys, you just do whatever you think is going to be best for you and go with it.
Absolutely. And everybody's doing everything per conference individually. Like you said, the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, everybody's trying to outdo each other and be one step ahead when all you're doing is adding to the chaos.
Yeah, and it's impossible to take the NCAA and do what the NBA or the NHL did and put everybody in a bubble and just say, you're in Philadelphia for 16 games. And,
oh, my goodness.
Or 11 games. I mean, you can't do that with college students. So
no,
it is a mess.
Absolutely not.
I am glad I'm not the guy making those decisions.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch. I guess we're all hoping is that by this time, well, not even by this time, because we want it to be spring ball and we want to see summer camps. But I'm hoping next college season everything's back to normal.
Absolutely, it has to be, or the people are going to hit the streets with picket signs and fire streets. Yeah. It's going to be a mess.
Right. That's exactly it. Or even worse, they just quit watching.
Yeah, but I don't think so. People love college football. College football is more ingrained, I believe, now than the professional leagues are.
Oh, I agree.
I think so. I think people see it as untainted by outside initiatives and forces, whether you're for or against. A lot of times we forget the games are supposed to be a distraction. You know, we want to get away from everything and watch our team compete, watch everybody come together for the sport of competition.
Right.
I already get enough crap on news. I don't want to go to a game and get like a lecture.
Well, I know we're spending a lot of time on football, but I got one more question for you on that. And that is, you know, when you look at where sports is going right now, and, you know, you look at the college game and they've started talking about paying college players. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on the college game?
Well, it's going to imbalance it a little bit, but I think it's long overdue because you have so many of these university and colleges making so much money off of their star players' likeness. So it would be wrong, and it has been wrong for so long, not to give them a piece of the pie. Now, of course, there has to be a lot of things put in place. There has to be caps. There has to be limits to what kids can do because the guys in the locker room not getting that attention or not making that money is going to cause a rift. It's going to cause a problem. And you don't need anything distracting away from the game than we already have. But in the same breath, these players should get something, some type of percentage, whether it's a stipend across the board, whatever it is. They should be getting something for these universities, making so much off their likeness, and they're getting nothing in return but injuries.
Right.
Walt, I think that's so cute. You think they're not already getting paid.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I may have been born at night.
I'm trying to play above water. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. No, I do agree. I think there needs to be just let's get it out from underneath the shadows. Let's bring it out in the open because you're absolutely right, Scotty. I mean, these kids, it's a different time, and you've got multi-million-dollar contracts with marketing. The university is raking in the dough. These kids they're building those empires on their backs and on their talent. They deserve at least a piece of it.
Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a huge amount because they're still college students. We got to do everything within reason, but a percentage, hey, 10% of this, 5% of that. I think that goes a long way for a college student because typically college students don't have any money. You don't have anything. You're going to college on a gift and a dream. So any type of monies or any type of thing financially that you can help with will go miles, and it'll help them in preparation for if they have a career in the professional leagues because money management. A lot of people that leave college and go to the pros, they get these millions of dollars thrown at them, and they haven't managed $1,000. Right. So I think it takes care of a lot of different issues.
I'm a private investigator in my real life, and I had one of my clients call me one day and say, hey, could you come meet with me and one of my clients? And it turned out to be a kid who had just been drafted by the NBA. And he had come from, nothing. His family was a mess. They had no money. He had never seen a dollar. And all of a sudden he signs this contract. And the attorney, his agent, had me run a background check on the family. And so he said, Walt, I want you to be brutally honest with this kid and tell him what's coming. And I said, well, look, number one, you've got an uncle who just got out of prison. He's been in for 8 years for fraud and robbery and all kinds of stuff. He will now be your best friend. He's going to come and he's going to try to glom onto this. You haven't seen this guy. You haven't seen this person, these people. Everybody, in your circle who has been on the fringe of your circle is now coming with their hands out. And I said, that is not their money. You put it in your pocket. You don't let them have anything. I don't care how much they beg and plead. This is your money that you're earning. You sit down with your financial manager and you figure it out. Because if something happens and you blow that ACL or you do something else, you still got 2 years of college to pay for. And you got a lifetime that you want this money to last. And
absolutely.
And I wish that more agents would kind of take that tact and say, look, this is, again, it's no sure thing. And, watch out for the snakes because they're there.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't even know I had this many best friends.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Scotty, let's shift back over now. Because we Walt and I were both big fans of sports. We just love, talking about stuff like that. But
oh, yeah.
We want to get back to you. You decided, okay, the microphone was calling your name. You had a chance to be on the air on a local college station in Atlanta, but what were you doing, or what were you taking any classes? What led you to realize there might be a career down this path?
Well, my degree is actually in radio, specifically with mass communications with a concentration in radio. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. But of course, learning the more technical side of things and, voice modulations and recording and pitch and all that good stuff, it just completely overtook me. Anything that I realize that I'm passionate about, I can instantly tell. It's a feeling that you get. And the more I did it, the more events I hosted. It's always been natural for me to be in front of a group and entertain. That part had been harvested years ago. So coming into radio, it was just kind of like pulling from my other talents and making it all make sense. So I was already comfortable on the stage and in front of, talking in front of large groups. Once I got to college and I started to see my reach and my range and, okay, you can really do this. People are responding to you. I think that's the thing that got my attention. Because initially it's like, okay, what makes me different than anybody else? I'm a guy with a semi-deep voice. There's a million of those. There's guys doing commercials all day. What's going to differentiate me? And it's because I know how to relate to people. I hear people well, and we have great conversations. I know how to make people comfortable to have a conversation in front of a group of thousands that typically they wouldn't have one-on-one with a close family member. So once I started to see that potential and that power, I wanted to know more. I got more curious and I started to do more. After radio in college, I started hosting parties and events all over Atlanta. I was the host of a Wednesday Wine Down, a live music event here in Atlanta for about 8 years out of Centennial Olympic Park. So that really helped me to kind of stretch my wings and get even more comfortable because with that event, it's always sponsored by a radio station. So it was allowing me to work side by side with jocks and personalities who are already on the radio every day. So that was a huge opportunity for me.
All right, so you started feeling like that's a draw. You had this already innate sense, and I know exactly what you mean when you've got that sort of inner voice that says, "I love what I'm doing. This doesn't feel like work. This feels like fun, and yet I know it's a career path." You also dabbled in some other things along the way that were similar. You've got yourself listed as a singer-songwriter. So where did that come into play?
That goes from a long lineage in my family. Being from Michigan, raised and grown up in the church, I've been a drummer. I've been all kind of instrumentalist. I've led praise teams. I've sung in the choir. So it was a natural upbringing. My family is a family of singers and musicians. My younger brother is the current drummer for Mariah Carey. My cousin is her music director and the music director for the Jackson 5. So it runs in my family rather deep. That's always been kind of the go-to. That's my comfort zone. But as I got older, you kind of figure out what specifically you want to do. Being a singer and being on stage, of course, that was great. And I did that when I moved out here to Atlanta for probably about my first 3 or 4 years here in Atlanta. And then there became a point where it felt more like work and I wasn't enjoying it. And the passion started to change because this market here in Atlanta is just completely different than anywhere in the world. So there's certain things that you have to do and prepare for. And I just didn't want it long term. I wanted to be in front of people. I wanted to entertain. I wanted to speak. But the performance aspect and the singing, that's a whole nother set of preparation that I had kind of tired myself on.
Man, Scotty, I wish you had some talent, man.
You and me both, man. Just got me out here answering calls all day, man.
Yeah, we're going to get to the dark side of radio in just a second. With the singer-songwriter, the musicianship, you said that kind of pulled back a little bit. Do you still, though, kind of stay on top of your skills? Or
yeah,
because my brother's a musician in a band, but he's got like the day job too. We all have those kind of side passions that we can't make a career at it, but we still like it. So I'm just curious, how much of that do you still kind of try to stay on top of?
Well, absolutely. It's never going to completely leave me. But as you get older, you start to cling to the things that you know you're really good at and that come easy to you. And for me, music production, I use it a lot with our radio show here on 95.5 WSB, Word on the Street. I do all of the production, so a lot of my music side comes from that. A lot of our bumpers and a lot of the background music, people think it comes from somewhere else, and I've really created it from top to bottom, whether it's pulling from other music and fusing music together or reaching out to some of my professional people and like, hey, I need a bumper. Our opening track for our song was created by my little brother. You know what I mean? So I'm always trying to, all of our segments, our gospel segment that we do, all of the background music and stuff I produced.
So do you do some of the, because you're talking about mixing and maybe sampling and kind of re-engineering. So do you have like a DJ background as well?
Absolutely. When you're in Atlanta and you're hustling, if people say, hey, I need a DJ, the answer is always, okay, yeah, I got it. What you need? What do you need me to do? And I've had home studios and I've accrued so much equipment over the years that I can pretty much DJ a wedding, sing a wedding, produce a wedding, do lighting for a wedding, record a podcast from a wedding. I have all those capabilities because over the years, I don't pawn any of that stuff. I just keep it. So my last singing performance was in 2012, and I did a birthday party out at Stone Mountain Park. You know, they have the boat tours. And a lady had a 50th birthday party, and myself and my band went out there. That was the last real show, the real performance as far as singing that I've done. And we went all out, man. And I still have the equipment from that event in 2012. My equipment is timeless. My bass guitar, all that stuff like that. My 12-track channel mixer, I keep all of that stuff because you never know what situation you're going to be in this business that stuff is useful.
Okay, so from the show Word on the Street, I mean, like you mentioned the gospel segment. There's a gospel feel. You grew up in the church, but you've also got like a blues feel. You've got a jazz feel. You've got a hip hop. Is there any style of music that you don't gravitate toward, or what genres do you find that you like to play in the most? I mean, where do you stop?
Absolutely not. See, growing up in Michigan, it's a melting pot. I'm sure as your co-host can tell you, we listen and we do everything. You know, it's not just hip hop or R&B or funk. It's rock, it's alternative, it's pop. I'm accustomed to just about every style of music, so for me, it's a mood thing. Where's the mood of the show going? Are we upbeat? Are we happy? Are we talking about something serious? Are we talking about something a little bit more melancholy? It's a mood thing for me, and it goes across all genres. And I also work with a wonderful DJ Crystal. She is a little bit more seasoned than I am. I'm just going to say it that way. So she knows a lot more older music. So when you kind of put us together, man, I don't see any type of music that we don't cover or don't know as a show.
Well, I'm looking forward to Scotty's Polka Hour. That is the one that is gonna be right up my alley.
Shout out to Camp Ebersol. When I was growing up in Michigan, they played polka music and line dancing music. I do know how to square dance. So yes, sir, I'm with you there.
You know, on my whole dad's side of the family, most of it comes from Poland, and I can't stand polka music, so
I'm conditioned to it. I've heard it. I had a neighbor who was Polish, and they blasted that music on the weekends. So you have no choice.
Well, you know, at my office, a couple of us have Alexas in our office, and this afternoon I had to run out to a meeting, and I came back, and somebody had walked in my office and said, "Hey, Alexa, play polka." So when I walked in, the polka station's playing on my Alexa. I'm like, What
There
is
it
going
is.
on here?
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Okay, Scotty, before we get to word on the street, because that is a really cool sort of offering that WSB morphed into when another Atlanta station kind of changed direction. Some really good talent there. And this is unfortunately any type of business that we're in.
Right.
You're only as good as your last ratings or until the station gets sold and somebody decides we're changing format, right? So before we get to that, let's talk about how you and I met, because you actually do some of the other, what we would call grunt work. And I always, when I talk about radio, I tell kids there is no job in radio that isn't important to do and learn. You should learn everything you can.
Absolutely.
So that way you can be as versatile. But as a call screener, we kind of joked about it at the beginning. I think you may have one of the worst jobs when it comes to coming up with a couple of hours of content.
Yep.
For me, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's my role. I love analysis, talk to, but you got to talk to the screwballs and the nut jobs and the
good
people that have
time.
had too much to drink. I mean, so what's it like to be on that side of a talk show?
Well, first off, you got to go into it knowing what to expect. You know, luckily I've had some great people around me and some people who've done it before me and kind of gave me the parameters like, look, this is what you got to look forward to. You're going to get the crazy people. You're going to get people on both sides politically. And you got to kind of, first off, you got to take your personal feelings out of it. If you answer the phone with your personal feelings, you've already made a mistake. You're already in the rear. So for me, I almost approach it like I'm doing a comedy sketch because it helps you soften up. Seriously.
Yeah, no.
You approach it with that attitude, and it's like, okay, I know they're going to say something crazy to me. I know they're going to yell at me. I know they might even call me out of my name, but it's not about me. It's about the station and what they're accustomed to. I'm just the guy in the middle. I'm just the middleman. So my attitude is always that. So you can say the most outlandish stuff to me. You can call me out of my name, blah, 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 and I'm just going to laugh at you. I'm just going to giggle because I understand the job I signed up for. And trust me, there are days when it's like, man, this ain't worth it. I quit. I quit. Screening for Eric
I think we can
show.
all relate.
Oh yeah, there's certain days where it's like, nope, it's not that important. It's really not that important. But then I reel myself back in, and you have fun with it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, 99.9% of those people just want to be heard. They don't even want to necessarily go on air. They just want to be heard. So I'll sit and let them rant and let them go off and say what they need to say, and it'll be that moment of silence, and they'll just be like, okay, thank you. Have a good day. And they'll hang up. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, see,
That's funny.
I because I'm not sitting in the room, because obviously while you're doing that, I'm doing something else.
Right.
But do you ever have that person, like you realize, okay, I know this voice, I know this caller, I see this number. We're going to put them on internal hold.
Yeah, it's my number. It's written right above his caller ID.
40 to 50% of the callers, I know who it is when I pick up the phone because they call every day. They call every day.
Man.
I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Russ, what's going on? Russ in Gainesville from the Mark Aram Show. He calls regularly. There are just certain people. It's like, hey, what's going on, Paul? Hey, what's going on, Eric? How you doing, man? Hey, man, I got to get in on the conversation. Like, okay.
Well, and there are probably people that you know for the conversation that the on-air person is having.
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
great caller, or this is a terrible caller.
I feel like I have the most power in the room. We're the most thankless job, but at the same time, we control so much because that one caller can either provoke your host or put your host in a hole to where it changes the entire dynamic of the show. So I'm constantly thinking about that. I'm constantly thinking, okay, what direction is this going to take Eric or Alan or Mark or whoever or Shelley? What direction is this something that they're suited to argue? Is this something, the type of content they want for the show? Or is this just somebody blowing smoke and wanting to be on the radio? You got to be able to differentiate within the first 30 seconds.
Wow. Well, and just, for the sake of our audience, I think I thank you every single time after I leave.
Oh yeah, you're wonderful.
Course,
you're wonderful.
But I'm not there every day.
Time usually, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. By the time you usually work, you're a welcome change for a lot of people who are just heads on fire Monday through Friday. So it's like, oh, we got Alan Sanders tonight. It's like, okay, well, let me dial it back. Let me dial it back. Alan's here. Let me be good.
Everybody's looking at themselves in the room with like, who's this jackass? What? All right, well, whatever.
Oh no, they know you. No, you got a pretty good reputation right now. Nobody has as nice as feathered hair as you in the building. I can promise.
Damn.
Well, I noticed that there was kind of a hint of for the time being, everybody's happy with you.
But there
It's
are a lot
thin
of
ice,
people,
man, but
not really. There's a lot of people that fill in and you're like, yeah, he's never coming back. Like they're coming, because even though I'm low man on the totem pole, the bosses do come and ask, hey, what did you think about that show?
Oh, yeah.
How did you do?
Well, and I was going to say, you say that, but you obviously have your thumb on the pulse of what's going on there. And I'm sure that if y'all have a guest host or even, some of the regular hosts, that you kind of know what direction things are going with them. And you can probably tell pretty quick that, yeah, this is somebody who's not going to fit in here. He may fit in somewhere else, but he is just not going to make it here.
Yep. And you got to look at things objectively because, where we work at is great with WSB, but there's a particular style and the type of person that work here, a type of commitment. And they might not work here, but they might do great at another station locally. And you got to be able to discern between that because there is a lot of talent that comes through these doors at WSB, and there's not enough mic time for everybody.
Right. No, definitely. And that gets back to our kind of football discussion. Not everyone's going to make it to the top of the pyramid, or they may have to look for a different pyramid if they want to get to the top. You
got to constantly reinvent. When I got hired here specifically at WSB, I told myself I was going to make it as hard as I possibly can to be fired because I'm going to learn and try to do everything. When you got a guy in the building that's willing and learning to do everything, it's harder to get rid of him, even if you want to. You can have a million meetings, but it's like, if we get rid of him, we lose this. That's always been my angle. I got hired as a phone screener, but I knew from the day I walked in the door that I intended on splashing my name across this building.
Well, and I think of all the years I've been a radio listener, I've heard over and over again that guys like that, their station may get bought out. Now it's a Spanish radio station, or now it's, something else. But the guy who was the 3 to 5 guy goes, hey, remember that guy that was so good at everything at my last station? I need to recommend him for the job here at this station.
Absolutely.
And you always keep finding work if you're that kind of guy.
Yep. And that's the goal. I think people have kind of figured it out about me, but initially I was just working in silence, man. I remember maybe my second or third day, I sat down with my hiring manager, and they was like, well, what all are you interested in? And they was like, yeah, you go ahead and close that door. We got a long conversation ahead of us. And I think they were initially all blown away because, you come in humble and you always work the job that you have in front of you first. But once you get comfortable with that, you got to spread like wildfire. And that's been my thought and my movement pattern here at WSB.
Now, because we're catching up to where you are kind of currently, let's talk about the fact that sometimes it takes, everybody's their own person. We all try to strive on our own, but there are happy accidents. There are great relationships, networking. Sometimes things fall into place as long as you're ready for it. The bringing on of Shelley Wynter's, and Shelley saying, I want to hear you. I want you to comment and bring your voice in. How has that been for you watching Word on the Street evolve as a show and as an offering on WSB?
That has been phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you guys are overly religious, but I am. Everything happens for a reason. The way this all fell into place, I got hired, and I believe Shelley got hired maybe 2 or 3 months after me. Me and Shelley have a previous working relationship. Like I said, I was the host of Wednesday Wind Down. Well, Shelley was one of the promoters. So we had spent time on the stage together for probably 5 or 6 years, every Wednesday. And so when I found out he was here and he found out I was here, it was natural. And I had already kind of made my inroads and, made my position available to all the bosses around here and sat down with Pete Spriggs and Drew and everybody and let them know, my intentions and what I wanted to do. So when Shelley came along, it was kind of like, hey, you guys know each other? How would you, it just kind of fell in our laps. Like, would you guys consider working together? It's like, absolutely. And one piece dropped and another piece dropped. And it was like, well, hey, why don't you try this? Well, this is where the market is going. What do you guys think about doing this type of show? Because initially, like everyone else, when I got here, I was just pushing for my own thing, my own show, being the lead, ... Mm-hmm. But when certain opportunities present themselves, it kind of makes you rethink things like, okay, do I sit on my hands and wait for another opportunity like this to come around? Or do I jump on top of this and figure out what's the best way I can infuse myself into this situation and be effective to where it helps everybody?
Well, and then the question I have for you, and I want to mention the third member of that team because we're going to actually have her join us, I think, in November. She's checking her schedule. MalaniKai adds another element to that show that I think is just fantastic.
Absolutely. Like I said, it was so unplanned, but I think that's usually when the best work happens because it was organic. We were kind of just thrown together and was like, well, let's try it. Let's see how it works. And if it doesn't work, then everybody kind of goes back to doing what they were originally doing. But it's worked, and it's worked very well. And now I love the position I'm in because it's kind of like seeing something happen from the top. Like everybody else is watching it and seeing all the moving parts. I've already seen it. I seen it months ago. So for me, it's just being committed and putting the work in, putting my head down and working. But we have a great product, and it's only going to get better from here because we're a new group.
Right.
Well, as a listener, I've always felt like there's certain shows you can feel the chemistry, and you know that the talent in the room and the interplay between the people there really, really works. And then there are others that you're like, man, they are really forcing it.
Yep.
And with y'all, it definitely is chemistry. You play well off of each other. You all seem to kind of know what each other are thinking. You don't always agree on everything, but
that would be boring.
You all definitely, that would be boring. It'd be terribly boring.
Terribly boring.
You all do a great job of working together to reach the same place. And as a listener, I appreciate that. I don't want to sit and listen to two knuckleheads try to make a show work.
Right.
Like Alan and I have to do.
That's why we bring guests on.
Right, exactly.
Well,
a buffer between the two of us.
Fantastic job.
Well, the question I've got for you then, because that kind of catches us up to where you are right now, and you've already sort of hinted there was always, and I guarantee if that opportunity showed up that said, hey, Scotty, there's an opportunity for you to host your own show. You want it, or do you want to still stay with this other group? You'll have to make that decision. But you're at a point right now where you are a voice talent. You are adding to the conversation. So my question to you is, do you feel like you're still learning something? Because sometimes we have in our heads, we think we already know everything. And then when we start doing it, we go, ooh, I gotta take those rough edges off. So what have you kind of felt about learning what it is to be part of a live on-air show?
Well, what I've learned is how to take yourself out of the main equation and do things for the betterment of the group. That is definitely what this taught me. I have 15 years of just regular management experience, so I know how to manage very well. But managing a group of people, there's 4 of us with Crystal, Shelley, and MalaniKai. It is a completely different beast. Typically with most shows, you have one talent to produce. You have a producer and you have the talent. I technically have 3 groups of talent, if you really want to slice it up, because with Crystal's mic becoming more and more louder.
That's true.
You have to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, and you kind of want to make sure that the show is structured. So it's a challenging job, but I couldn't see anybody else doing it but me, because I take so much pride in it, and I've gotten used to the group that we were with, because it was not that way in the beginning. We had a lot of bumps in the road, and just getting familiar with working with somebody in close proximity on a regular basis.
Well, and that's just becoming more in tune with each other's relationships, the quirks that we bring. Sometimes we're like, well, that guy's a sarcastic jackass. You're like, oh, okay, well, he's not. You learn. Okay, they don't really mean to be a jackass. They just are sarcastic, and I was taking it wrong. You just learn those along the way. Yep.
And I think, too, everybody's background was a little different, where some of us have radio backgrounds. We also have people with TV backgrounds. Shelley comes from a morning show where he was primarily the go-to, the talent. He didn't really have to bounce ideas or even, consort with the team. And I've done a little bit of everything between podcasting, online radio, live radio, pre-recorded radio. So to kind of tie all that in together and figure out where everybody is strong at. Because initially, us people out here in Atlanta who are hustlers, and I'm speaking of you guys too, you want to do everything yourself. You want it done a certain type of way. Okay, I know how to do this. Nobody can do it better than me. But when you're assessing a team, you really got to take your personal feelings out of it and say, hey, is Shelley really better than me at this? Yeah, he is. Maybe if I can get him to do this and I focus on this portion of it, it'll make it that much better. That's been the biggest thing that I've learned, because initially for me, everything is like, oh yeah, I do it better than them.
And that's important to teach everybody, because I love being on air. I love talking. I love engaging, but you're not going to send me to do a play-by-play. I love watching football. I can't call a game. It would be a mistake to try to put me in that position. And I've learned that. I've learned I can't do everything. I could maybe run the board for a football game, which is what I actually do for our station that I work at here up in Northwest Georgia. But I don't do play-by-play. You have to learn your strengths and how you can all be better as a team if everyone's leveraging their strengths rather than competing against one another.
Absolutely. That is incredibly important. It can make or break your team because if you can't get past yourself and you're constantly pushing yourself on people or pushing your ideas and not really considering the team, people aren't going to want to work with you.
No, no, not at all. I've seen that too many times. So, Scotty, what is your podcast and what is your podcast about?
Well, initially I've had about 3 podcasts since I've been here, but right now the main podcast is for Word on the Street. For that show, I take care of all of that. But I've had a plethora of podcasts that you can find on my YouTube channel, and I've covered everything from sports to news, entertainment to just the latest breaking political news. But right now, the podcast Word on the Street is found on our Facebook page, on YouTube, on Apple, everywhere you can find podcasts. That's typically the focus. And we were doing something different initially and recording outside of our show. But now that our content has gotten so strong within our show, I pull the podcast from our shows typically.
Now, do you get to supplement? A lot of times people will take the live radio show, record it, but then take the commercials out and instead maybe insert bits or insert some sound or some other things, or is it pretty much just a straight recording of what we heard live?
It's pretty much a straight recording what you heard live. Now, what I will do is some of our bits and segments, I will sneak them in because I definitely get rid of all the commercials and try to fit it in. But it's promotion as well. You know what I mean? To kind of let people know what you do. And my mind can go in so many different directions. Like, I still feel like you guys have only just been introduced to Scotty B. So for me, that internet platform is huge on trying things out. Hey, listen to this segment. Tell me what you think. And sometimes I get 0 likes and sometimes I can get hundreds. It just all depends. But that's the beauty of the industry we're in. And I love it. I love the positioning because you kind of get to give people secrets before they're exposed to the rest of the world.
That is an interesting way to look at it. So if you, I just had one more question for me, and I know we've gone a little bit longer than we told you we would, but you're kind of neck deep in the industry. Where do you see radio podcasting going the next few years?
Well, right now, podcasting has exploded. It's such a platform for so many people, especially with the live entertainment industry, the music industry being down. You see a lot of those figureheads now having podcasts and the round table. People want to hear conversations. I think, to me, radio is shifting a bit from just having a solo talent. People want to hear conflicting views. And not necessarily people argue, but just to debate, just to hear all the sides, to present the full story. I think you're going to start seeing everybody have multi-voiced shows because overall, you're getting a better product with the same amount of time with the same airwaves. So I think, for me, that's where radio is going, is for more multi-platform shows.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Scotty. I hope it's going that way. I love having the conversation. That's what our whole podcast here is about, bringing a guest and just free-form chat, maybe a little structure, but because we kind of know where we're going. But hey, by the way, it also opens up, hey, instead of having one person on the mic for 3 hours, we can have 3 people. That just gives us more options, right?
Absolutely. It makes the show that much more colorful because a person like me, you never know what's going to come out of my mouth. You know, I can be very straightforward, give you a kind of vanilla answer, or depending on what time of day it is, I might reach down into my bag and just throw something just to see how you respond.
And that's part of the charm of Word on the Street as well, because you do it right there.
Absolutely. I think, but we have a huge platform. Word on the Street is such an opportunity, and not only for us, but WSB. So I try to keep that in the forefront of my mind whenever we're planning for a show. It's a huge opportunity. We get to do a different type of show, different than anybody here in Atlanta. Definitely. And I take pride in that.
Oh, and I think it's a great show. So, Scotty, we're kind of coming to the end of our segment here, but could you just kind of tell everybody where they can catch your show on WSB and on your, again, remind them about your podcast?
Absolutely. You can catch us every weekend, Saturday and Sunday night from 9 p.m. to midnight. All of our shows, all of our information, my sexy recipes, our relationship advice, all of our bits are posted on my YouTube channel at Scotty Baker. You can go to the Facebook page at The Word on the Street, our Twitter page that we just recently started and is off and running, Word on the Street. Check us out. We respond. I respond. My biggest thing is I want people to know about this show is that you can touch us, you can reach us, you can talk to us. A lot of these bigger shows and a lot of these network shows, you can't really talk to the people who don't have any access to you. They can send an email to somebody managing an account, but they don't get to talk to you. You get to talk to me. If you call the show, I'm answering the phone. If you send an email, if you send a comment about anything, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to respond to you within a decent amount of time. So if you really want to connect with people and you want to be heard, check out our show. Check us out. Hit us up, man. And we would love to hear from you. We would love to have you.
Yeah, for some reason, Rush Limbaugh has never gotten back to me, and I've always kind of held that against him.
You too, huh?
So I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. I've been trying to get it rushed since I started.
Excellent. Well, Scotty, we talked before we even went live. We mentioned we've got 2 more segments. You said you'd be willing to hang out. So you ready for us to jump into our news segment?
I'm following you guys wherever you lead.
All right. Well, this is a segment we affectionately like to call
It's No Bullshit.
So Walt.
Yes.
I was going to ask you if you really warned him that this isn't quite news.
That's all right.
It's different.
Those are the best stories, typically.
Yeah, they are.
All right, Walt, you open us up. What's our first item?
Well, since I've gotten such great feedback on all these stupid obituaries that I've found, I've got another one for us.
Oh, goody.
wow.
Let's find out
we go.
whether someone liked this person or hated him.
I'll give you one guess. It starts off, Irishman dies from stubbornness and whiskey.
Yes, I like where this is going.
Yeah. Chris Connors died at age 67 after after trying to box his bikini-clad hospice nurse just moments earlier. Ladies' man, game slayer, and outlaw, Connors told his last inappropriate joke on December 9th. That one cannot be printed here. Anyone else fighting ALS and stage 4 pancreatic cancer would have gone quietly into the night. But Connors was stark naked, driving...
Oh, yeah, he was trying to go out with a bang.
Yes, Connors was stark naked, drinking... Alan, you're going to have to know what this one is. It's Vuvie, and a house full of friends and family as Al Green played over the speakers. The way he died is just like he lived. He wrote his own rules, he fought authority, and he paved his own way. And if you said he couldn't do it, he would make sure he could. Most people thought he was crazy for swimming in the ocean in January, for being a skinny Irish Golden Gloves boxer from Quincy, Massachusetts, for dressing up as a priest and then proceeding to get into a fight at a Jewish deli.
Oh, yeah, he had a plan.
This guy is awesome.
I wish I could have met this guy.
Yeah, no kidding. Many gawked at his start of a career on Wall Street without a financial background, but instead of an intelligent, impish smile, love for the spoken word, irreverent sense of humor, and stunning blue eyes that can make anyone fall in love with him. As much as people knew hanging out with him would end in a night in jail or a killer screwdriver hangover, he was the type of man that people would drive 16 hours at the drop of a dime to come see. He lived 1,000 years in the 67 calendar years that we had him here for. He grabbed it by the lapels, kissed it, and swung it back onto the dance floor. At the age of 26, he planned to circumnavigate the world. Instead, he ended up spending 40 hours on a life raft off the coast of Panama. In 1974, he founded the Quincy Rugby Club. In his 30s, he sustained a knife wound after saving a woman from being mugged in New York City. He didn't slow down. At age 64, he climbed to base camp of Mount Everest. Throughout his life, he was an accomplished hunter and birth control device tester.
Whoa.
What?
With some failures, noticeably Caitlin Connors, 33, Chris Connors, 11, and Liam Connors, 8.
Oh, God. It's a stunning failure.
Yes. Well, and notice the ages, 33, 11, and 8.
Yes.
Wow.
That dude came and went at the same time, didn't he?
Yeah, he's becoming more and more a legend.
Yeah,
He's
kidding.
a legend.
Well, he was a rare combination of someone who had a love of life and a firm understanding of what was important. The simplicity of living a life with those you love. Although he threw some of the most memorable parties during the greater half of a century, he would trade it all for a night in front of the fire with his family in Maine. His acute awareness of the importance of life, a life lived with ones he loved over the material possessions, was only handicapped by his territorial attachment to the remote control of his TV. Chris. Okay, Chris enjoyed cross-dressing.
What?
Are you talking about two different people? Like,
no, this is him. A well-made fire and mashed potatoes with a lot of butter. His regrets were few, but include eating a rotisserie hot dog from an unmemorable convenience store in the summer of '86. I guess that's an inside joke. Of all the people he touched, both willing and unwilling, his most proud achievement of life was marrying his wife, Emily Connors, who supported him in all his glory during his heyday and lovingly supporting him physically during their last days together. Absolute Vodka and Simple Orange companies are devastated by the loss of Connors. A celebration of life will be held during happy hour at York Harbor Inn on Monday, December 19th. In lieu of flowers, please pay open bar tab or donate to Connors Water Safety Fund at thechrisconnors.com.
It's no bullshit.
shout out to his wife.
Yeah.
No doubt.
You know my favorite line in that, whether you think it's goofy or not, I want to be that person that packed 1,000 years of adventure into the whatever time I have on this earth. I think that's that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
This guy, I mean, you sounded like you read 3 different obituaries. He was a family man. He was a party animal. He took knife wounds. Like, next thing you know, he's going to tell me he built a pyramid.
Well, and anybody who spent 40 hours in a life raft, I mean,
wow,
you have done something.
That's amazing. Always fun having those obituaries and seeing how people write about those that have just passed. Or in this case, obviously it was from probably last year, being that it was saying in December. Yes. But yeah. I love, those are funny. We did a poll on in our listeners group, and it seems to be overwhelmingly received by the audience so far that they like these weird obituaries people write. Well,
and I love that this one, we've had a couple that you're like, dang, that guy was an ass. But this guy seemed like a really great guy.
Right. Just ready to relish every moment of life.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely somebody I've hung out with.
Yes, and want to again.
Well, I've got the next story, and we all know the cliche of security guards thinking that they're more powerful or more in law enforcement than they actually are, right?
I've heard those stories.
Well, 40-year-old Omar Ford allegedly told investigators while he was on his way home from his security job, he saw a car in front of him that he thought was swerving and assumed it was an impaired driver. Said the gentleman flew right past me, Ford said in a conversation recorded by the Castleberry police officer's body cam. So just keep that in mind. So I thought he was intoxicated. Now, Ford's company, he told police, is called Criminal Task Force. So the name that's what he had on his vest. And so he had a gun and a taser. Now, a citizen would mistake this all day for law enforcement, said one of Castleberry's police officers when looking at the video, referring to the white SUV, the uniform, and his other accoutrements. Ford reportedly told police he decided to pull over the vehicle because he was worried about the person being impaired. One problem. The person he pulled over was a police officer who had just gotten off duty.
Oh, yeah. Message.
Nice work.
When Ford tried to stop the officer, he could look over and see, said the police officer. And since he's a policeman himself, he knows about the uniforms and jurisdictions and knew it wasn't a Castleberry or Seminole County or state trooper. So he called in saying, I'm trying to be stopped by somebody who apparently thinks they're a cop. Castleberry police arrived and said that they found Ford did not have a valid driver's license either.
Oh, my God.
He was charged with impersonating an officer, driving on a suspended license, and has been released after posting bond. He has, however, denied impersonating an officer.
It's no bullshit.
Never mind the word of this officer.
Right.
Yeah,
or the fact that he's on body cam saying that, well, I thought it was my duty to pull him over because I thought he was intoxicated. Oh, and by the way, that's a Florida man story. Just a Florida man impersonating an officer pulling over an off-duty cop.
Not surprised.
Yeah, I was going to say something's missing from that story, but you got it with Florida man.
Florida man.
All right, so you know these Well, I'm not going to call them stupid because y'all may think they're awesome, but you know these stupid gender reveal parties?
Oh, my God.
Like the one that lit California on fire?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the one that's caused a 480-acre blazing inferno out there. Well, this one's from thesun.com. A dad-to-be has taken a direct hit in the crotch after setting off a gender reveal flare.
Oh.
When Kristen Corsetti and husband Tom gathered family and friends for a gender reveal party at home in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts on August 30th, they had no idea what sex their second kid would be. Their 4-year-old daughter, Ella, stood in the middle of them. The couple who'd been married for 6 years prepared to fire their powder cannons into the sky. After counting down from 5, medical sales rep Kristen, 36, fired the blue powder in the air, closely followed by her real estate agent husband. Unfortunately for Tom, 43, the cannons were facing the wrong way, leaving his groin to take the full burst of the blast, which was meant to shoot powder 30 feet away.
Oh, but he was point blank at this point.
Point blank. Oh,
definitely no
hilarious.
child number 3.
Exactly. Exactly. Hilarious footage shows Tom doubled over before curling up on the floor while onlookers laughed, leaving his shorts covered in bright blue powder to show he's due to have a son.
Hey, congratulations. It's a boy.
It's a boy, dummy. In the clip, which has been viewed more than 750,000 times online, one of the family's males, this is awesome, can be heard shouting, "No need for a vasectomy."
We'll write your receipt right here.
Kristen said the overall reaction was shock, followed by laughter. Once everyone knew we were all okay, we had lots of laughs about the event. Unfortunately, the instructions in the box were unclear. We were apparently holding the powder cannons pointing the wrong direction. Yeah, apparently. When used correctly, the powder should be dispersed 30 to 40 feet in the air. Since Tom's cannon was unknowingly pointed right at his genitals, he was directly blasted. He was not permanently hurt by the accident and fully recovered within minutes. Tom was just shocked that we were holding them the incorrect way. Apparently, this was all my fault. Everyone was also very excited that they were having a baby boy, which is due February 7th, 2021, and we can't wait to meet him. Since being uploaded to Facebook, the video has been shared more than 6,300 times, leaving many people to joke, and here are the jokes. No more babies for him. Well, I think that goes without saying. One person commented, "Laughing my ass off, we're doing this next time. Free vasectomy." Another commenter said, "OMG, these genital reveal parties."
Genital reveal party.
Genital reveal party.
One commentator joked, "No more babies for him. Got him right in the nuts." And finally, "Thank God they got a baby boy. He might be done."
It's no bullshit.
Yeah, he's done. Let me tell you what happened 2 seconds before that. His wife said, "Honey, we got to have one more." And that's how everything unfolded.
He may have turned it on himself.
And that's where the air quotes, I guess it was my fault. I did it on purpose. Well, then the other joke could have been that even though the cannon didn't shoot blanks, Tom forever will.
There it is. There it is.
Well, this is so funny because, you know, Scotty, Walt and I don't share with each other the stories we're going to bring. So that way we can just riff on them as we're hearing them all cold. And it's funny how my last story sort of dovetails rather nicely into Walt's.
Oh, awesome.
Can't wait to hear this.
Mine escalates it and makes it a whole lot worse. You guys ready? Since we're all males here, get ready to cross your legs and do the ooh. Ready? I don't know about you, but snakes in a toilet are a top 10 big fear for a lot of people.
Oh, no. Oh, no. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Look, for a lot of people, The idea of maybe being attacked by a shark, being attacked in a shower, finding quicksand, these are all the irrational fears we have thanks to movies and seeing things in the news. Well, let's go ahead and move straight ahead into a story from Thailand, where snakes choosing the toilet as a place to hide is kind of commonplace. Well, one thing did happen in this particular story. And CNN has some horrible photos of the entire ordeal.
Oh, no.
Don't look at them if you have a thing about blood or legless reptiles slithering through home plumbing. CNN interviewed one of the rescue officers at the scene who had terrible news about the incident's frequency. Now, generally, the snakes will bite people on the behind because it's when you're sitting on the toilet. But for one boy who was standing and relieving himself, suddenly found himself attached at his penis by a python.
No way.
Oh my gosh.
You can have it. I'm out.
A 4-foot python, thankfully non-venomous, but every bit still has fangs, had leaped out of the toilet and latched onto the boy's doodad. They were able to get the snake off.
No.
And the New York Post then spoke with the mother, who said, "I'm pretty sure he's going to be scarred for the rest of his life whenever going to the toilet." I don't know about you, but after this story, me too.
It's amazing. It's astounding. But it's no bullshit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not going in that bathroom ever again. And if anybody questions me, I smack them in the mouth.
You know, we all jokingly have nicknames, when we're trying to be, coy in public, but I don't think I will ever use the throbbing python of love ever again.
No. I feel like crying now because I see it. I visualize it.
And this was a teenager, this was a young teen. Can you imagine the horror of looking down and a 4-foot python is trying to swallow your manhood?
Nope.
I saw that headline. I was like, I gotta bring it. I gotta bring this story.
Guess who won't be using the bathroom at home tonight?
I'd rather be sitting. You bite me in the ass. That's all. I'm fine.
No, it can be worse from that side. No, sir.
Oh, there we go. So there's our news stories. We're going to move into our final segment, a little entertainment, a segment we like to call What You Watching, What You Reading, What You Listening To. And Walt, we'll go to you first. We'll do what you're watching or streaming first. Any recommendations, stuff you've been watching either on Netflix, maybe going back and binging because you decided to sign up for MeTV and catch up on WKRP in Cincinnati since we're all involved in radio and broadcast, or whatever. What you got?
Well, I thought when I started watching the show, it was going to be just a great sci-fi type show. But there's a show on Netflix called Away, and it stars Hilary Swank and Josh Charles. Have you seen this show?
I've seen the trailer for it. Isn't it about like a mom? Like the trailer shows her telling her kids, "Well, I'll be gone for a while. I'm going out in space." Is that the one?
Yeah, she is the commander of the first trip to Mars, and it's good. I mean, it's worth watching, but it really drags at a couple of places. You kind of find yourself, or at least for me, episodes 6 and 7, probably, I was like, okay, let's just get going. And then 8 and 9 really pay off. Or 9 and 10 really pay off. So it's a good show if you can get through that middle part. A lot of family drama, a lot of other stuff going on, but good sci-fi. It's very believable and really interesting because it's an international crew. So you've got people with kind of all kinds of perspectives. So definitely worth checking out. And then there's one I'm about to start that looks really cool. We're going to have a guest who actually was on this show. It's called Halt and Catch Fire. Have you watched that?
No, I've heard the title, but I've never seen it.
Yeah,
What's it about?
I've had. Well, it's a good question. It's it's a group of people around the dawn of the personal computer era. So it's like a digital company that's creating computers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they kind of have a lot of historical, it's kind of a historical drama, I guess. And when it originally came on, I remember thinking, I really want to watch this, and I just never got to it. So I'm going to start that this week, but I've heard nothing but great things. It's got great ratings, and it's on Netflix. I just saw it pop up there, and even though I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble with Netflix right now because of another show, I'm going to hold on at least for a little while and see where they end up with that and watch that. And so those are really the two right now. Of course, I'm kind of starting to watch a little bit of college football that's starting up, and a little bit of baseball that's going on. So
yeah, we only have a couple of weeks of baseball left.
That's it. Yeah, hockey too.
And actually, by the time this episode, because we record a couple weeks ahead of time, we may be wrapping up baseball.
Yeah,
getting ready for
done with baseball,
postseason.
Hockey, and basketball.
Wow. All right, let's go over to Scotty B. What do you watch? What do you recommend? Any shows, series, things you're binging, or have you been back to the theater even to watch a movie on the big screen?
No, I haven't been back to the theater. I'm going to hold off on that one for a little bit longer. But Netflix and Hulu are my best friends right now. Seriously, The Umbrella Academy Season 2. I don't know if you guys watched Season 1. The Umbrella Academy adopted children with special powers, adopted by a rich guy, and he initially wants to use their powers for good, and it just goes all different type of directions. So they came out with Season 2. It's been very good. Like you said about the other series, it gets a little spotty in the middle where they just try to throw out too many storylines. But overall, I thought Season 2 was good, and they left enough questions to where you want to come back and watch Season 3. So I'd recommend, if you want to kind of get into something funky and weird and off the beaten path, The Umbrella Academy. Check it out.
Excellent. It was a good graphic novel, and they did a really good job with Season 1, and I have yet to start Season 2, so I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
And I keep having people recommend that to me, so I guess I'm going to have to dive in on that one.
Check it out. Pour a drink and just sit back and just be open-minded.
Yeah, imagine an X-Men, but a quirkier version of X-Men.
Okay, I can deal with that.
Okay. Scotty, anything else you got that you would recommend that you're binging?
Well, no, man. Honestly, it's football season now, and we got basketball playoffs. So really, to be honest, I should just be giving all my money to ESPN, because that's what I watch all day long. That's my hidden talent, is I'm a sportscaster behind closed doors. So I listen to stats, I listen to old interviews. I'm deeply enthralled right now in all sports.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, for me, I don't know if you had a chance to see it. Speaking of quirky, like X-Men style superheroes, one of the coolest and sort of irreverent series that came out a year and a half ago was The Boys, about these superheroes, and you realize they're not like the Superman, Batman, and Justice for All. It's, hey, if I got a superpower and I can do whatever I want, why can't I just be a complete jackass and do whatever I want? I loved The Boys Season 1. They're doing something different with The Boys Season 2. It's sort of like with The Mandalorian. They're forcing you to only watch one a week rather than dropping them all at once. So they've just had the first 3 episodes out so far, and it does not disappoint. If you were enthralled with where they left you at Season 1, if you like that sort of sometimes gross because of the violence, if you don't mind some of the language and you don't mind some of the situations, I am totally all in with The Boys Season 2. So check that one out. That is awesome.
And is that on Amazon Prime?
Amazon. It's Amazon Prime. Yeah, it is. Oh my God, it is so good. In fact, I almost feel like I should have gone back and rewatched The Boys Season 1, because I feel like I'm missing a couple of threads, so I may just do that since I have to wait a week for the next episode. But I think they've done a great job carrying that story forward. So check that out. And I'm still working my way through. This is going to be there's just so many episodes. Remember when TV shows lasted 26 episodes per season?
Yeah.
So I am almost through Star Trek The Next Generation Season 5.
Luck.
I've got 2 more to go after that. Some of the stories, I was telling my wife, I used to catch Star Trek on rerun, when it was big in the 90s as a rerun, because it come out in late 80s and was rerunning in the middle and late 90s. I can't believe the number of episodes I've missed, and it's been nice to just sort of watch it unfold in order. Some episodes, like anything else, there's some weaker episodes, but all in all, I've just been having a great time reacquainting myself with the Next Generation cast.
That's awesome. Well, it's a great show, so you can't miss with that one.
All right, so if we're reading anything, this segment tends to be hit or miss, depending, because books take a lot longer than one a week, unless you're my wife. who can read 4 books in a week. It's just amazing, her just voracious appetite. But Walt, anything on the bookshelf, whether it's an audiobook or a traditional novel?
Well, thanks to you, I went ahead and got the first Michael Connelly book in the Bosch series.
Oh, good
and
stuff.
Just started reading that. Oh, it's great. I just started it last night. It's called The Black Echo, and I'm already in. I'm in hook, line, and sinker. The Bosch character is so good, and this book just is great. And the funny thing is, I'm a very, like, if I'm reading a book, I kind of visualize it, and I can see the actor who plays Bosch on TV going through this thing. So it tells you how well he played that character. And that's Titus Welliver?
Titus Welliver.
Welliver, yeah. And so pick that up, and it's great. You know, of course, you can get it on Amazon. I think there are now 20 books in that series, in the Bosch series. So I've got some reading ahead of me.
There are several, and what's great is you could pick any one up as a standalone. Michael Connelly does such a good job that you don't have to necessarily read them in order, but if you do, you're in for a treat. I did not know about The Black Echo. I still have to go back and pick that up. I actually started with City of Bones. That was the first one, which was the later in the series. So I'm kind of a little all over the place in terms of year they were put out. I think The Black Echo came out in 1992, and he's put out one almost every year or every other year since then. Some once a year, and some he skips a year. But they're very well written. And if you never saw the season, we talked about it earlier, Scotty, but if you watched Bosch on Netflix, or is it Amazon? Sorry, it's Amazon. Great detective show. And they're going to do one more season. It got delayed because of COVID-19, but there's one more that will be released probably in 2021 sometime. And if you are into detective stories, if you like those sort of cliffhanger endings that just keep you wanting to keep, one of those shows that you'll just be like, damn, I've watched 4 in a row, but you know what? What's one more?
Yep.
That's Bosch. It's so good.
It is great. I think it's one of the best police dramas that there has ever been. Definitely one of the best detective dramas. So highly recommended.
Excellent. Scotty, you reading anything right now?
Actually, yes. Oldie but goodie. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah?
I started it many years ago and kind of played with it, and I read a chapter and digest it. Then you kind of get away from it. But I've made it a point to, before, let's say, Christmas, I plan to have it finished. I'm in the middle of the book right now. And it's just one of those things that it still is relevant. Everything in the book, all of the different elements, being proactive, begin with an end in mind, putting things first, all the different concepts and applying it to your life. It still works. And I know a lot of people that use it and are very successful. So I'm just trying to be a better me.
You know, I was just talking to my daughter yesterday about one of the chapters. It's the one on people who waste your time.
Yep.
And I was just telling her, you know, there are people who you have to avoid who are going to distract you from reaching your goals because they're going to take your time and just they're not the kind of people who are going to be successful. They don't want to be successful. They don't care. And they don't care about your success. You need to avoid those people.
Yep.
And so, yeah, great book.
And you know what? You say it's a classic, but you know what? The reason it's still being read to this day is because the truths in that, or at least the insights, still apply.
Yep, absolutely. Things change a little bit, but for the most part, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And this book falls into that category.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewrite that book at some point with like modern. What my wife affectionately says, "Oh, there's the big book of Alan. You seem to have all the answers to everything." I'm like, well, only the things I talk about.
Yes,
Oh,
I love it. I'll buy one.
One of them that I've always said, and I tell my girls this, I tell people, and Walt, you've heard me say it: don't let people live rent free in your head. Let them go.
Absolutely,
because it's not hurting them. It's only hurting you if you let them live in there. Let it kick them out.
Yep. And it takes a while to get to that level of maturity to realize that, but definitely helpful. Definitely had to learn that lesson coming out of college.
Yeah, you know what? I think everyone has to, because we are, as human beings, we are driven by emotion first. It's harder to stop and be cool and think things through. Emotions are easy. They happen instantly.
Yep. At the time, it feels like you're making the best decision ever. And then you sit and think about it, and it's like, well, I don't got bail money right now, so do I really want to make this decision?
Yes, If you can't afford the time, don't do the crime.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
I will say at this point, I don't have anything in my inbox, but because there's so much going on with a presidential election cycle, I have been reading one news story after the other, trying to stay on top of what feels like a flood. I feel like I'm trying to drink from a fire hose to stay on top of what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, and as you know, Scotty, with what I do, at any point I could be called upon to fill in for anybody at any given time. I've got my own show on Saturdays at WBHF, and you just got to stay on top of it because
you got to stay ready.
You never know not only what's going to happen at that moment, but you have to have the context, help the audience understand. Well, okay, this isn't an isolated incident. Here's the chain of events. A lot of people forget that. They lose context. And as you know, being a call screener, a lot of times I have no idea what that caller might actually say and which direction they'll take me. And the more I know, the more easily I can handle the conversation. So I'm always reading. It's just not a book, which is not as fun, but it is one of my passions. So that's what I do all the time. I don't watch hardly any news. I'll tell you that. I've been happier in the last 6 months turning the news off, the talking heads, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox. I don't care. I get a lot better out of just reading the actual stories. Go to the newspaper, go to the blog sites, hear what people are saying, try to digest it from 7 different sides because nobody has the right side. It's all their version of what they think the truth is.
Well, and there's so many unknowns at this point. I mean, we do not know where this thing is going.
Well, everybody rushes to come up with the headline and the clickbait, and then we figure out whether or not they were right or wrong 3 or 4, or sometimes 3 or 4 days, or sometimes 3 or 4 weeks later. And I've learned you got to slow down. You can't just take to Twitter with what you think is the truth just because you saw it somewhere, because you don't know what version you're seeing. And that's hard. It is really hard being in the news business and the news talk business. You want to feel like you know what's happening, but sometimes if you're not being given the whole story for 2, 3, 4 days, you feel kind of like an idiot because you don't want to make a presumption and then be wrong. But at the same time, you don't want to go up there and say, I don't know why I'm talking about this because I don't know anything. Well, then why are you on the radio, right?
Why are you on the radio?
It's tough.
Yep.
It's tough.
It's Russian roulette.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it. It's like, spin the chamber. Oh, please.
Because nothing is worse than having to go back on a story and say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I was wrong.
Oh, that is the worst. That is the worst. Well, for me, the way I was raised, now, there are a lot of people who have no problem doing it. I see reporters in the mainstream media that have no problem saying one thing and then going, well, I was wrong. Oh, well, sorry. Go to the next story. I take that personally. Like, I was raised that if it's almost like an insult that I lied to my audience, like even if it was unintentional. I hate that.
Agreed.
So, all right, let's wrap up to what are we listening to? This could be new albums, and it could be a book on tape or something as well, or it could be a podcast. Or if you have a podcast you want to give a shout out to, this is the time to do it. Walt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get through the podcast on the winds of change and the CIA's dabbling into the world of rock and roll. So I've just about got all the episodes done on that one. But that is a really fascinating show. And then have you listened to it's called the Armchair Expert?
Oh, one of our guests suggested that. Was it your buddy Hawk?
I think so. I think he was the one who did that. And Dax Shepard is the guy who's kind of the brains behind the show.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
I have to give him credit. I really had very low expectations for this show. But I've been very impressed. He is a good interviewer. He asks good questions. He gets some good depth, and he really will elicit just some answers out of people and some emotions out of people that you don't expect. So if you get a chance, check that out. Definitely worth listening, even if you just listen to his interviews with people you like or are fans of. Again, it's called The Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Definitely worth listening to.
Very cool. I always like finding little hints and tips of what what podcasts are worth adding to my subscription list, because outside of, as Scotty knows, WSB, I only listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts, or I just stream music from my Alexa. So there are very few terrestrial stations other than WSB that I listen to, because I just, if I'm going to work there, I should listen to everything because I love it. I love it so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else, Walt? Any other podcast shout outs?
No, I think that's it for now. I really need to get through a couple of these that I've been listening to and jump onto some new stuff.
All right. Scotty B, what about you?
I'm listening to a lot of local radio and, of course, podcast with not only our station here at WSB, but a lot of the sister stations. You know, I just kind of like to keep a pulse on the market, especially here in Atlanta. And I've been listening to a lot of celebrity podcasts. T.I. has one, Expeditiously. I'm trying to think who else. Jamie Foxx has a great podcast, Nick Cannon.
Ooh, yeah.
So I've really just been kind of enthralling myself in the market and trying to see what else is out there. You know, I like to kind of keep a beat on what's new, what's old, what's working, and what's not.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with looking at what you may call it competition. In podcasting, it's not so much because everyone's got their niche, but in radio, absolutely there is. And if you don't know what people are maybe moving toward or some trend, if you're not paying attention, you could very easily find yourself losing audience and not knowing why.
Yep, 150% agree. And I'm trying to do everything I can, even at my young phase of my career, to do everything I can to stay away from that and be relevant.
Awesome. Good stuff. A good habit to learn. Again, it's a lot of things that you try to tell somebody younger and they just go, I don't care. No, you have to. Hey, it's called work.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it whether you want to or not. So you might as well choose something you enjoy.
Well, and I'll tell you one thing I've learned is that you either are going to get controlled by the market or you're going to have a hand in controlling the market and whatever your business you're in. The more knowledge you have, the harder you work, the more skills you have, the better you're going to do controlling that environment.
150% agree.
Well, ironically, moving to my listening habits, I started The Wind of Change. I thought it was really good. The preview, the pilot was sort of whet the appetite, and then I got through episode 1, so I will continue. I think it's a 7-part series. Scotty, if you don't know what that is, the song by the Scorpions in the it was actually, I think, 1990 when it may have come out. It was The Wind of Change right after the wall fell, and there was this big push to try to get the USSR to stop being the Soviet Union and break those countries back up into individual units. Well, that song, that was a mega hit. There is a big body of evidence that seems to indicate it may have been one of the best CIA written and produced propaganda pieces to help bring about that change to the communist nation.
Really?
It's a fascinating series. It's done like sort of a podcast newscast where you get the sense that there's a narrator going through his research, going through his steps, but it's really fascinating. The work and the due diligence, the interviews, the trying to get pieces of information to vet this rumor that started, that actually came to this guy's ears about 10 years ago, and he spent all this time trying to piece it together, and then he released the show. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, he interviews some
attention.
ex-CIA people, and he'll ask a question, and you get, I don't think I can talk about that. And it's like, wait a minute. This should be nonsense. They should just be able to go, no, that didn't happen. What? You're crazy. But you start going, maybe they're onto something. Maybe everything isn't what I think it is.
We got to follow that trail of smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
You got it.
It's really, really engaging and done in a very, very, I guess, digestible way. The episodes are about 40 to 50 minutes each, depending on what the content. Nicely produced. I'm very happy with that one. So I'm starting on that one. Got to give a shout out to the Marine Corps Movie Minute.
Oh, yeah.
They're breaking down the movie Heartbreak Ridge. Walt and I just recently had a chance to be part of one of the weeks that's going to be out toward the end of the movie, minutes 115, 116, and 117. They don't know yet what their second movie is going to be, but a couple of ex-Marine jarheads now making a podcast where they look at a Marine movie or a movie about the Marines or centered around the Marines, 1 minute of the movie at a time, and that was a lot of fun. Got to give a shout out to Golden Rage of TV. They always provide great content, short little digestible bites about the Golden Age of television. 60MW podcast. They're always great. The Real Queens of Queens. I just had the honor of putting together. They asked me to re-engineer and produce a brand new show opening and close. So hopefully they'll start using that really, really soon. Wow. Fran, Kathy, and the addition of Michelle in their second season. Some great stuff from ladies all born and raised in Queens, New York. And then the Bad Cop show. And I got to give a plug to our fellow buddy, BK. He's got the BK on the Air Escape podcast, where he takes his show from Saturday, gives it some extra bits and bops and pieces. He says he makes it bionic, and re-releases it. So check out the BK on the Air Escape Pod podcast. That's going to do it for me.
That's a lot. I don't think I'm going to get through all that this week.
Well, before I let Walt do the final little bit of housekeeping, Scotty, got to tell you, awesome to have you on the air with us. Love having your voice. Love hearing, not only your story about how far you've come, but knowing how far you've still got to go, because we're all on this journey together in radio and producing, entertainment and content and news and whatever it is. Until the day I drop dead, I'll be doing this, and I know you probably feel the exact same way.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for having me. This is wonderful. This is excellent.
Scotty, it was great.
And, the more we can do this, the more we can put things together, the bigger the product gets. So I look forward not only to my success, but to the success of the Wilder Ride. This is going to be excellent, man. I can't wait to see who you guys got on next. I'm a fan.
Well, we appreciate you being there. And, of course, we love listening to you guys, too. Walt, got to tell everybody, if they want to, maybe they just picked this up for the first time because they're like, oh, Scotty B's on? Well, I'm going to start listening to this podcast. If they want to engage with us, you heard Scotty say before, you go into the radio show, word on the street, you hit him on Twitter, you hit him on Facebook, they're going to talk to you, they're going to respond. Well, guess what? We do the same thing. We love our listeners. So how can people engage with us?
Well, the best way to engage with us is always going to be on our listeners group on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com/The Wilder Ride, follow us there. And then right when you do that, there's going to be a button that pops up that says join the listeners group. So click on that. You'll answer 3 questions just so that we know that you're not some crazy bot from Russia trying to influence our voting on whether or not to use obituaries in our show. And join in the fun. I mean, people post all kinds of great stuff about entertainment and the actors and actresses in the movies that we're covering. And we also are, start using it to let you know who's coming up next on our show. We post our show there so you can find it and then repost it for your friends. So it's a great place just to kind of join in and find out what's going on and really kind of get away from all the politics and all the other stuff that bogs down our day sometimes. And just kind of a good break from everything. So check us out there. Also look at patreon.com, find the Wilder Ride on there. We have a bunch of episodes of stuff that right now are free, but they're about to go back behind the paywall. So you want to do that. And if you want to help our show out, there are a couple ways that you can do that. While you're on Patreon, check out some ways that you can donate to the show. Every dollar helps. And we've got some great folks who have been able to help us out with anywhere from $1 up. And those are some of our great patrons that we will highlight next week. Also, Alan has mentioned this a couple times. Please, 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 if you like an episode, then like and share that episode and do a review on Amazon or Apple or wherever you're listening to us and let everybody know what you think of our show.
Yeah, do that for everybody. We recommend podcasts all the time. You heard Word on the Street is a podcast if you want to subscribe to that. If you like what you're listening to, you found it fun and engaging and informative, take a second. Every podcatcher has the ability to share that episode out, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Twitter. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps grow the audience for all of us. And I know I do that all the time, try to get people to try new shows and listen to what I'm listening to. So please, it doesn't take any time and certainly doesn't take any money to do the rate, review, and share.
That's right, but you can always tell your brother that you gave him a subscription to the Wilder Ride and that you wishing him
it's
a happy
Christmas
birthday.
present.
Absolutely. He doesn't have to know it's free. So, and if you want to hear Scotty, you go to WSB Radio. You can find that anywhere. WSB has an app. You can also tell Alexa that you want to listen to WSB Radio, and you will go right there, and you'll be able to hear him keeping the station on the air.
Especially weekends,
Yes,
Saturday and Sunday right now from 9 to midnight Eastern time. Check it out. Word on the Street. Awesome show with Shelley Wynter, MalaniKai, DJ Crystal, and Scotty B. Awesome stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
Scotty, before I give the final close, anything else you want to say? Because you are our guest and we are your host.
Well, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep giving this platform to all of us young radio heads trying to make a name for ourselves in this world, because this is big, and I'll be sharing it, resharing it, and putting it everywhere I possibly can. Mixing my group with your group, and we make our group that much bigger.
Absolutely. And I feel like we've just kind of started to scratch the surface, so we're going to have you back next year and talk a little bit more.
Pencil me in. I'm all in.
All right. Well, speaking of guests, we don't know. Well, we don't tease yet. You're going to have to come back next week because we're done today. But come on back next week, every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Another brand new episode drops. Find out who's going to be our guest next week by coming right back here to the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge.
Maybe we should have Scotty sing us out.
No, Kate, we're going to get Scotty to record the intro, man. He's
Absolutely.
got that voice.
You are now listening to the Wilder Ride.
Man.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to. We could get the. You know what we need? Like I always thought of us being kind of like that cheesy lounge. What we need is to have like that kind of like really dimly lit with a little bit of like that mood music, and we can get him to come in.
Yeah, baby.
Hey, baby.
You're here. You're into the Wilder Lounge.
Oh.
Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for the ride.
We just tripled our female listenership right there.
You know it's good because I started to react.
Yeah, I got all my.
And some men.
That happens sometimes. That's the part of it.